So what we'll do is, can I have a runner on the floor with a microphone, please? So if you'd like to ask a question to either one of our panelists, you're welcome to just raise your hand. Perhaps I could just open, hi. Just your name and your question, please.
Can you hear me? All right. To the panel, anybody, if you don't mind. Now, talking about transformation and everything, it's always there's always a few factors that we have to consider. But I want to pose a question to you, and just to see how everybody feels about it. And I would love to, if there's more than one response to, perception. Right, let's assume you're building a new building for an enterprise, and let's assume there's 2,000 users in the building. Cabling/wireless, let's call it ratios. Would you rather go for the Wi-Fi side of things, or would you rather go for the physical cable side of things? And I'm talking considering power over Ethernet type setups, VDI, those type of technologies.
I'll give you my view on that. I think the reality is today that we're still doing both, and would recommend that you still do both. I don't think the concept is to reduce the number of endpoints, because it's still very useful to have an endpoint, especially if you put phones down, PoE phones connected to the LAN. But what's very important then is to create mobility, and what we've often seen is that Wi-Fi is limited to boardrooms and the like, and that strategy has to change. So if you do have less of a need for the physical point on the wall, then you can reduce that. But what is very important is to make sure that your Wi-Fi is available throughout the organization, throughout the building, everybody, even down the stairs and everywhere, because you want somebody to pick up a call on IP and walk through the building as if they would do it with their cell phone. And you don't want to switch between the mobile network and the Wi-Fi. And that's a very important thing. So that's both from a voice perspective as well as from the ability to work from any desk perspective. So that is a very important aspect to consider.
I just want to understand the ratio here. I don't know.
I think what Andy alluded to previously was, there's different types of workers in the organization. So I mean, you will have your mobile type of workers and sort of your fixed desk type of workers. From that perspective, I mean, it would purely be a matter of defining, okay, and classify users, by that, okay, and categorize it. And decide how many network points you're going to need. But the reality is that, the way things are going, I think we eventually going to get to a place where we would want Wi-Fi everywhere in the building, okay, and we're only going to need fixed points in certain areas.
All right. I think if I could maybe open the question, of course, this is the UC track. We've spoken quite a bit about unified communications. Why is unified communication so important to digital transformation? What role would it play in our business?
I think we've heard a lot about millennials. It's predicted by the year 2020, about 50% of the workforce will be millennials. If we understand how millennials operate, understand that the way in which the millennials have rubbed off on the Generation X, it's important to know that there's a changing organization happening. Unified communications is a very important part of that. Wi-Fi, the point that Stefan brought up, very important. We cannot work without Wi-Fi. Our millennials grew up with Wi-Fi in their homes, in hotspots. They expect it. They don't know where it comes from, have no idea how it's made. But it's important for them to have it. And it's a crisis when the Wi-Fi goes down. I mean, we, as an example, this building has a Wi-Fi network. I hope you're all connected to the network. if you're not, please do. But even that, to make that work, to look at the providing that, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. We've seen in studies that 50% of millennials say that they will sacrifice salary for being able to work from anywhere, especially if they can work from home or from a coffee shop. Now that's incredible. If you're willing to give up money to have that flexibility, that is quite a big thing. So I think we need to understand that. It's not just millennials, workers across the organization has that need, and it's something that we need to look at, both in the organization and outside.
Maybe I can just comment on that, Mitch. So to me, it's okay, I'll just do it with this so I can dewire. What I alluded to was two things. To me, UC gives you the tools to embrace digital transformation. It also provides you with the ability to integrate with the back-end applications and the source of data or whatever is important to that organization. You marry those two together, I think it's taking you a heck of a long way down this digital transformation road.
Yeah, I think workflow in business, workflow is the new way of work. UC vendors strive to provide, a unified experience, okay, that spans across the whole, every aspect of the business, from the frontline office to the, back office integration to CRM. You'll have a transaction with a client. The content and the data will be associated to it. The information and the documents that relate to it will be associated to it. The team members that are dedicated to the task, okay, will all be associated to it. So workflow is a definition and execution and automation of a business process, of tasks and information, where you hand this information from one participant to another participant, for them to action. And I think another very important thing to remember is that when staff come into the workplace today, they use between 4 to 6 communication apps daily. And as a result, this creates a disconnected experience in the organization. And it creates redundancy and confusion. And for the business, this also creates poor user adoption. Where unified communications can basically take all those different elements and all those different apps that they used to, okay, and put it into one application, okay, that they can use in a business environment.
Anything from the floor? What about the path of disruption, or the path of disruption that we see in industry rather? Is it a case of do or die? Can businesses afford to stay on legacy telecom platforms or telecommunication platforms in order to stay relevant? Will they still be relevant on legacy platforms?
I'll answer that. And Andy and myself, we don't always agree on this topic. But I'll give my biased opinion. So, if you look at the business case for the value proposition for retiring a legacy PABX, I can't find any reason for a business to hold on to their legacy technology. And we see this in the market. Customers are paying for legacy telephone lines that they don't use anymore. And it's external and even internal. They're not taking advantage of least cost routing. There's a cost saving to be had, okay, for inter-branch calls. For moving on to an IP type application. They don't have an ability to scale. And I think it's especially important in today's market with changes and mergers and acquisitions.
Can I just chip in there?
You can chip in.
So I'm not going to disagree with him, right? We'll do that later. Actually, I don't know why he said I disagree with him. I never disagree with him. So he hasn't got to the point yet. I cut him off. So I think what's important is to talk about this in the context of the theme of this conference, which is digital transformation. So you heard on the keynote this morning. I spoke about it. We've all spoken about it in some way or form, which is businesses that stay stagnant don't exist very long. That's the bottom line. So for someone who is sweating an asset, there is a point that they're going to have to change that thinking, because if they continue with that for too long, it will probably be the death of them.
I can say something. I think it's important that to understand when we talk about the digital transformation, the timing, it's happening now. So it doesn't matter how you do it, what's your strategy, but you don't waste a lot of time in making these decisions. Get on with it and make it happen.
Great. There's a question, thank you. Warren, there's a name I know. Warren, sure.
Sometimes I feel that with moving forward in the telecommunications space, putting in a new PBX, unified communication, it's easy when it's broken, but to actually justify the actual decommissioning and putting in a new system, setting up IP phones, PoE, to get that cost, what do you think, how do you justify, it's a kind of a grudge purchase. I need to do it, my thing is broken, it's not doing what I need to do, but how do you show the business value that, where's the return on investment?
I'll kick off here, and I'm sure there's lots of opinions about this. Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done when you look at the replacement strategy. I would never recommend that you do something before your old infrastructure is written off completely. It's often it's not only a grudge purchase, because that goes to balance sheet. You write off another couple of million rands worth of equipment before you actually buy something new, so the financial guys get very grumpy with you about that. But when you're in a position to now do that, you can't only look at the cost of your current environment in its current state over the next, say, 5 years to say, how does that compare? So it cost me currently maintenance of X, and if I now buy a new system, it's the same 5-year period, it's going to be very different. You need to start looking at proper UC, bringing in the mobility side, making use of the fact that if you look at the other side of the income statement, which we often overlook, which is your cost of mobile spent, which is massive in most organizations, we find that that could be more than the data and voice spent together. Could be the mobile bill. If you start reducing that, you effectively start empowering the user to use their handsets in the organization, to do the things that Rikus is talking about, move them away from the logic of phoning from their mobile phone over GSM to a person sitting on another floor, or even on the same floor, just too far to walk. That's what you need to have to do. If you start looking at that cost saving, the return on investment is incredible. It's very, very fast. But you have to tick those boxes. If you don't tick in other words, you spend more money to save a heck of a lot of money.
I think, just to your question, I think the other key thing is asking the question what your current communication solution is not doing for you. So if you're saying you have a legacy environment and it's time to change it because it's not reliable, end of life, whatever that may be, and you're going to just replace like for like, so the service you deliver is going to be identical to the one you had, then there's absolutely no benefit. But assuming, what we've talked about is all organizations are evolving because the market's evolving. So whatever space you're in, it's an evolving space. So if you could deploy a new solution that delivered way, way more from a business functionality point of view than the old solution, that should mean that the business case stands up and it's not a grudge purchase.
And I think just to add to that, if a company gets into a position where they are sitting with a legacy system that is end of life and they have to replace it, and in replacing that means that I now have to go replace my network, I have to replace my LAN, I have to go do all those things. Yes, it will become very cost effective. But I think what companies need to do in today's day and age is the first thing you do is go and look at your infrastructure. Go fix your network, go fix your LAN, make sure those things are in place first, okay? And you can still maybe sweat your legacy system for a while, and then once the network is fixed, you can easily go overlay a UC platform on it.
I could just maybe conclude on this topic. We've done lots of business case studies where the customer does the case study himself, just really getting information from the vendor, various vendors, and every single time the business case makes sense. So go through the process. Don't just stare at the big bill, the big spend.
Perfect. Any other questions? I think we've got 2 minutes left.